All right, welcome back everybody for a special episode of Let's Talk. And I'm super excited for those of you guys that are new and are watching and tuning in for the first time because we are talking about a special subject today. My name is Jeremiah Carcellar, a dancer. And for the most part, I am also really into a lot of just like Justice League and DC and all of that. And so we had to talk about that today. So the subject for today's video is going to be Justice League, and I have some special guests with me today. So I have, first of all, I'd like to reintroduce for those of you guys who have been watching some of the episodes before, Jesse Gotangco, also a dancer. So he's got some good insights to kind of share with us today. Jesse, how are you doing, man?
I am excited to talk about this movie. I watched this movie 2 years ago. I loved Endgame. It was so dope. Are we talking about Endgame? Are we talking about different? Are we talking about
You're in the wrong show.
Wrong show. We got a Marvel head.
Oh snap! Yeah, I'm super excited to be here. Super excited to talk about the cut, the Snyder Cut.
Yeah, the Snyder Cut, man. Thanks for being here, dude. And of course, we also have a very special guest, one of our mentors in the dance community here. You will know him as Mr. Jerome de Malanta, but as we move forward in this episode, Jess and I will be referring to him as we've all grown up referring to him as Sir J. So Sir J, how are you doing?
Hey guys, what's up? As you've grown up, like I was taking care of you when you were like little kids. Hey, how's it going, guys? I'm really excited to be here. I'm a super fan of comics in general, not just DC or Marvel. So I have some input I think that people would gravitate towards. And of course, it's always exciting for me to talk with other geek heads about stuff that is useless in life, but so exciting.
Well, sir, for people who are watching and getting to know like us for the first time, and maybe they're not familiar with like your history with comics and maybe DC or Marvel, maybe you can share a little bit just about like how into the comics and the source material are you? Yeah,
so my first exposure to basically superheroes and comics was Super Friends. It was a show way back then, and you guys were still too young for that. They had this roster of heroes that included Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman, and Aquaman was there too. But there's this weird alien twins that the Wonder Twins that had the girl turning into any animal that she chose, and the guy who turned into shape of a water or ice. And the one thing that stands out to me was when he that episode when he turned into ice cubes. That was traumatizing for me as a child, like wasting your superpowers on that. And then after that,
Ice Cube, the rapper? Just kidding.
Ice Cube, the rapper.
Yeah. My very first comic book was an Avengers comic book when I was, I think, 8 or 9. My dad gave that to me. And from then on, I've been addicted. Up to the time when I was teaching in UP, people saw me around campus with a comic book or with my laptop folded like this because I downloaded some comics and I was reading it from the laptop like this, like a book.
Yeah.
That's how much of a geek I am. So, yeah.
And
a bit of a background on me.
What was it? So was it specifically, just for context, what was it specifically Marvel? Did you also dive into DC a little bit?
I would say that I'm more of a Marvel fan, but DC is close to my heart too because those are the superheroes I grew up with first before I got exposed to Marvel. But I shifted my attention to Marvel after reading all of the stories, and I saw the difference. It's I don't know if it makes sense, but when I was younger, it felt more real when I was reading the Marvel comic books, and DC was more, fantastical.
Yeah,
So,
that's a great that's a great point. That's something that I also noticed a lot when I was getting into the comics and the heroes, seeing these stark differences whereas in Marvel, right, we call them heroes, but technically most of like the stories that happen to them are just like things that happen to people who happen to have these powers.
Yeah.
Whereas like in DC, there's like a hero mantle that they live up to. Like
Yes.
they have to save people and and secret identities and all of that. And so that's really cool.
Yeah, I guess you can say that Marvel is a bit more grounded. But of course, over the years, most of the storytelling from both companies have evolved into like really mature level reading. So they're basically on par with each other nowadays.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, I'm glad we're glad that
Marvel though does the stories around real cities actually, right? And then DC has a lot of like those Metropolis, Gotham. They're all like comic book cities.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But the movies are interesting because I think like how it's. Oh, we're gonna get into the. but
wait, how it's hang on. I have a question, Jesse.
Yes, sure.
Marvel or DC?
Are we talking about the cinematic universe or the comics?
Like the whole spectrum of.
Oh, the whole spectrum of. Damn. Okay. Well, without the cinematic universe, I love both because like right now I can.
Oh, he's bringing out the big guns here.
Like I can show you and like the Infinity Gauntlet.
Oh man.
This is right there.
Wow.
I love that compendium of Infinity Gauntlet. I saw that. I was supposed to buy one of those.
This one. And
I love that.
Yeah, once I got this, I used to have the original one, but then I just lost it. So I got this, and then after reading this, I had to complete it. I was like, I gotta get like all of these.
Oh yes.
So all the Infinity War stuff. So I love both for how different they are. Definitely the cinematic universe is a different topic.
That's true.
That's good.
But yeah. I also like other comics. Like another character I super love is actually Spawn, but that's like a darker.
Yeah.
Todd McFarlane. Yeah. And yeah. So. I can't pick between the two. They're two very different fruits.
Yeah.
Two different flavors.
Expand a little bit, Jess. How young were you when you were exposed, and how did you really get into it?
Oh, dang. I don't even remember when I got exposed to comics, but definitely because I was into art. Okay. So I think it crossed from art. Although I do remember what Sergey was saying about the Super Friends. I definitely caught the reruns because I think Super Friends were like, that I think that was like released during the 70s till like early 80s. Yeah. And because my sister always watches like at these animations and these cartoons from He-Man to She-Ra. I got exposed to that. Yeah. So
nice. The Saturday Fun Machine or something like that.
Yes, exactly. And like the super old school like Tony Stark. And then the really old Iron Man and Hulk and Thor, Asgard, all those cheesy intros. I was exposed to that because of my sister. And then I think just because I got into art, I suddenly just wanted to draw comics. And then from wanting to draw comics or comic characters, I started like reading. And then, but actually I'm not as an avid reader or fan as you guys would be. Because
that's all right. Well, hey,
like just
exactly. And
the
crazy thing with the comics is like sometimes like you get really into the one comic and then just to kind of keep up with the bigger story, you end up having to like follow all the other comics just to get the interweaving storylines. It's crazy, but that's
it's okay,
cool, man.
Jesse, we don't think any less of you, but it is a good thing too, because what I found was for the non-comic readers who go into like watching all of these superhero films that we have right now, they don't have this preset notions of what the universe should be or what the character should be. Mm-hmm. So they get into it and they just like, oh, okay, that's how it's supposed to be. And they accept it. Whereas for old geekheads like us who are, into the lore of things, we end up sometimes kind of judgmental.
Yes.
It's not true to form. Like, that's not how it is. That's not how it's supposed to be done. So So you really
true.
have to, like, when you get into it, you really have to like disabuse yourself of all of the notions that a character or a storyline has to follow this path.
Right.
You know, and just enjoy it for what it is, right?
As its own universe, yeah.
Yes,
exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, I think
especially Marvel, right? Like they're so expanded right now. And before I remember, like, hold on, wait a minute, the mutants are like this, but that's not how like Quicksilver and Wanda. Wait a minute, they're Magneto's kids, and
Oh, and they take
happen?
so many liberties with the storylines. Like they would like get inspiration from a story arc. Let's say from WandaVision, the House of M.
Yeah, House of M.
But they're not gonna make it as expansive as, but it kind of looks like that, but it's not. You know, like, what I mean?
They're grabbing really good source material to create the universe as they go.
And they make it their own, which I don't have any problems with as long as they do it right. They do it well.
Exactly. As long as it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
exactly.
And I think
is this where like we're putting in like the Justice League? No, just kidding.
I think I think that's the new reality sort of that we're as time has sort of come upon us, right? There was a time where the Marvel universe and comic book movies were still a bit young, and so there was a lot of that, like, oh, this is not like, you had a lot of fans who were coming in to and seeing this, and then other people who didn't know it, and then people will be quick to judge, like, oh, why are you so into this? You don't really read the material. You don't really, But now we're like 10 years in, and there are people who it's legitimate that you can be a Marvel fan who has never read the comics and, or watched the shows, but you just are into the movies. And that's just, where things are, I think, right now. So, and that's really cool. Like the fact that we can, like, I feel very lucky that we can, sit here and talk about Justice League or any of the Marvel movies, right?
Oh my gosh, this is the best time to be alive.
Right?
Like, we have all of these like great stories and great movies coming out. And think about it, like 15, 20 years ago, it wasn't like this. Like you will get crappy superhero movies with some exceptions, of course, but not like this, like expanded universes and all. And you're looking at like for the next 10 to 15 years, more of them coming our way. So it's great to be alive.
Yes. And so just to expand a little bit on the context, right? Because I think it's cool that the people that are watching, they have an idea of where we're coming from and what, how we relate to some of these characters, right? So it's great that both of you guys are both fans. Like Sergey more on the Marvel side, but you still love DC. Same thing with Jess as well. To give you guys context as well, who are for those watching, that actually just had an idea. Okay, so. This figure thing box, I think, best represents like how I feel. Okay, so I showed you guys earlier, right? So I got Spider-Man.
It's the crossover.
Yeah. So I love both, but majority probably DC, right? So DC's like the box art. They're the majority, but I still love Marvel, and I think the reason that is because when I grew up, the animated series is what I was watching. So you had Batman the animated series, Justice League.
Oh man,
right?
Yeah,
man, that's
good, so good.
Unlimited.
Yeah, and
I love that series. That is one of the best.
Right, and they had so many. Like, it was my first time as a kid, like watching something that had very mature themes, and I said, "Oh, this is really cool." And then that's really what spawned me getting into comics a little bit. Although, like Jess, I probably haven't read like heavy into the comics in a while. But there was a time for like years where it was like I was keeping pace with everything, and I kind of just waited for the movies. But I still, however, right, even saying that, so people know I am a DC fan for the most part. I like DC the most, but there are characters and storylines in Marvel that I like, and I have to say, like, from an objective standpoint, obviously the Marvel universe has really built itself into something really nice, and I can positively say that the movies and the quality they come out with, like, it's great, and good. They're good films. So
well planned out.
Right, exactly. Just crazily produced. But now we get to discuss something that is close to my heart, which is like seeing
brought back from the dead.
Right, because man, as a DC fan and like seeing like all the failures and just like, let's just get a good one in,
Frustrating.
To be fair, DC has a really great animated movie series. Like their animated movies are really good. Yeah,
without any doubt.
Yeah, Justice League Apocalypse, Dark Apocalypse was like one of the last ones. Flashpoint, really good. As in, like, I would pick. I don't remember watching, like, I don't actually have favorite Marvel animated movies. Mostly DC for superheroes.
They should get those guys, right? They should, like, hey man, can you just jump on our
I know, right?
Our film universe.
But now we dive into the cinematic universe. So
All right, so to jump off of that, so for obviously we are going to be discussing Justice League, and for those of you guys that aren't familiar, you know, you're like, okay, Justice League came out in 2017. What we're going to be talking about is the Snyder Cut that just came out. I think it was this week, and basically the story, just the backstory there is, Zack Snyder was working on his original vision for the film. He unfortunately had to step away to personal reasons. And Joss Whedon, who was the Avengers director, right, and came in and finished the movie. And here's the crazy part. Like, for me personally, I was like, oh, great, Joss Whedon, he's going to come in. And I actually really liked the first Avengers. So Ultron, not so much. But the first Avengers, I was like, this is really good. And I was thinking, okay, that, like, this is, with the way Justice League is going to pan out, it's going to be really good. And, I don't want to dive too much into the old Justice League, but just it was good. But it just, I felt like there was something missing. And so I think a lot of fans felt the same way. Yeah, a lot of things. Based on this week, a lot of things were missing. So a lot of fans really got into it, and they did this whole campaign, hashtag Ask the Producer, Zack Snyder, to release his cut, and they were able to get it funded by HBO. And so now we got this awesome 4-hour movie to digest, right? Which I think, first of all, like, what are your, I mean, just 4 hours. I think this is one thing I want to talk about before we jump into the movie isn't it interesting, sort of like the time that we're in now, because we don't have the movie theaters, right, to really go to as much. But it's interesting that you can take a 4-hour movie, give it to a streaming platform, and it's an okay watch because you're sitting at your house, you can pause and play. Like to me, watching a 4-hour movie, let's say in the theaters, might seem a bit, intimidating, right? Because you're like, if I go to the bathroom or do anything or miss a moment, like I can't go back and watch it again. Whereas, with the streaming services now, you guys can just pause. I mean, did you guys, I mean, I know I took a break. Did you guys take a break during watching Snyder Cut?
Took breaks.
You took breaks. What about you, Sir Jay? Did you watch the whole thing? One sit through?
No, I actually went into it prepared. So I had all of my snacks and drinks, and I went to the bathroom before it because I just didn't want to, take any break whatsoever.
Okay.
And you know what? I've done longer Netflix binges than 4 hours.
Well,
that is nothing to me. And I've seen The Lord of the Rings like back to back to back every year.
Yeah.
That is nothing. 4 hours is nothing.
Expert. That's awesome.
Expert here.
Okay, so let's jump right into it, right? Because for those watching, we're going to split this conversation into two sections. Probably one more than the other, but the first section will be a non-spoiler talk, right? So we're just going to talk about the things that, for those of you guys that haven't watched it, can hopefully take from, but not get spoiled. And then where we're going to spend the majority of our time is going to be in the spoiler discussion. So before we jump into all of that, let's start with the non-spoiler talk. So let's just go through what were your overall thoughts on the film after having watched it? Let's start with Jess.
Okay. Well, I guess just to piggyback on the 4 hours, right? Like, I would rather watch that 4-hour film compared to the 2-hour film. Generally, because it provided enough context. Actually, not enough context. More so like the right context for the entire movie to make more sense. Yeah. So generally, I super appreciated this cut. I think it's great that it got its chance to actually shine, and maybe it was a blessing in disguise for it to be released in HBO Max. Because, you know, people did have more time to take breaks in between. I honestly took breaks to like, pause it, I gotta grab a snack.
Yeah.
Boom. Danny, are you? So I was watching with Danny. So, Danny, are you ready? Okay, finish cooking first before flames. So usually those were our breaks. So people had more control, definitely. It is a better composed movie if we're giving the no spoiler comparison to the first one. What else can I say? I'm trying to be super careful. It definitely shines a different light on the characters.
Right.
That is for sure. It also, it definitely connects with the first and the second. So, you know, when Zack Snyder started with Man of Steel, and contrary to popular belief, popular opinion, sorry, I actually like Man of Steel. Like, it's one of the movies that I'm like, I actually like this movie. Like, it's putting Superman in the real world and seeing how controversial he is, you know. So I actually liked it, and I liked the tone of it. And you know, fast forward to BVS. BVS has its, you know, shortcomings here and there, but generally I liked how it connected, and then how this movie, Zack Snyder's version, Snyder Cut, the Snyder Cut, TSC, the Snyder Cut, right? I like how it definitely jumps off of where BVS was. So that whole 1, 2, 3 of Man of Steel, BVS, Snyder Cut really makes sense. That flow, that tone, and, you know, disregarding all the other movies that come after, like, let's say, like Aquaman.
Yeah.
Maybe one. Well, actually, I love Wonder Woman, the first one.
Yeah. Well, you know, what's great is that, you know, in terms of character, right? You mentioned character. What's interesting to me is that, you know, one of the things that maybe I don't know if this is true or just from what I read, is that a lot of people seem to think that, you know, Zack Snyder doesn't really do a good job of doing character development, or at least in storytelling, right? He's mostly known for his visual effects, like moments. Like, I think one of the quotes that I've seen somebody do is like, Zack Snyder knows how to do moments, but he lacks the build up to get you to appreciate those moments, right? And I think so. I don't know. Like, when I watched this movie, I was like, there seems to be some good character. Maybe it's not character development. I think I heard somebody say character exposition, right? But in those cases, like, I was just like, whoa, this is very important, and it made me appreciate more of that stuff, you know. So I didn't know if he just learned that skill, or he's always had it, just chose not to do it, or maybe it just happened by chance, or maybe because this was a passion project, he put everything he had, and so everything just changed in terms of how he developed it. But you're right. Like, I think the thing that people can look forward to when they watch this movie is just a deeper understanding of these characters, which I think, being honest, just, you know, even though I enjoyed the first movie, it was sorely lacking, I think, on that part, you know, and it changed like the whole tone, but we'll get into that.
Exactly. Possibly like maybe in terms of character development, in a span of, let's say, well, for Superman, he has 2.5. Okay, I don't want to spoil it, but 2 and something movies, right? Since he's here in Justice League. For the others who just came in here, and for Batman, I think in terms of, like what you were saying, character exposition, I think Snyder did a really good job setting them up for scenes and storytelling that makes sense. But I think in terms of, like, character development, like in comparison to, let's say, the Marvel movies, how, like, you know, like, you have Steve Rogers, who is a man out of time, and his character arc from being the soldiers of the early 1940s all the way to a person looking for his spot in today's world, and Tony, you know, being playboy billionaire philanthropist, self-sacrifice. That type of character development has yet to be seen with these characters because of the, you know, the extensive expansion of the universe, which we want to cross our fingers to see if they're going to continue it or not, right? So but
awesome. How about you, Sergio? Your overall thoughts on a non-spoilery account of the movie?
I'll try. Yeah. But let me preface my comment with this, that this movie was done with the benefit of hindsight. Like seeing what people didn't like about the first one, seeing what failed, seeing the critics' reaction to it. So it was a do-over, so to speak. So given that, I would say that the do-over for me was successful. It's what the fans wanted. It's what the fans expected from the first one, which was a movie that was edgy, that was gritty, that was dark. And like what Jesse said, this particular one actually had some character exposition, a bit of character development that was neglected in the first iteration of it. So now we get to learn more about a few of the characters that didn't have their solo movies. And I think that's one of the things that's important. Like what you guys mentioned, MCU had this buildup over a span of time to really flesh out the characters, to really understand what their motives are, where they're coming from, and all that. So with the DCEU, we just had Superman, right? We just had Batman with BVS. And I think Wonder Woman did come out a couple of months before Justice League, right? I think that's a timeline. So we didn't get to see an origin story of Flash, of Cyborg, of Aquaman at that time. Nothing yet. So I think that's where the first film suffered. Let me just tell you, although it was directed in part by Joss Whedon, it was a hot mess.
Yeah.
I hated it. So let me just say that. He did really well with the Avengers franchise, but this one was an ultimate failure. Their styles, their directorial styles just didn't mesh. It was polar opposites of each other. So it wasn't really going to work out. It's weird because from what I read, it was Zack Snyder who took on Whedon on board to help with the project.
Right.
But with some articles that I read, it was the executive's decision to include Whedon in the universe. So I don't know which one is right, but either way, it didn't work. But this one I would say is a love letter by Zack Snyder. I mean, to the fans. It's basically everything that the fans wanted, and he delivered. And I was satisfied with it. 4-hour runtime, not really. I think that could have been cut down to probably like 3 hours because of some unnecessary scenes, which we will get into. But yeah, basically that's it. I like it.
Nice.
I liked it.
Great. Hey, that's good, right? Coming from, especially from a Marvel guy. That's why I'm glad for this conversation. So just in terms of like, we talked about like how the characters are fleshed out. Marvel has tons of movies that have origin, backgrounds for each of these characters, right? And I think the biggest difference as well is that when I look at it, right, it's like Guardians of the Galaxy, for example, who are these characters who nobody knew, and you put them up there, and of course you're going to need that story to kind of flesh them out. But when you look at DC, there are a lot of characters who are already known by in name, right? Like Batman and Superman. And so I think the question I have is, for anybody who's going to be watching this and going into it, how important is going to have, let's say, do they need to watch Man of Steel and BVS to kind of get into this movie? Or can they just jump into Justice League Snyder Cut right away? What do you guys think?
They have to watch Man of Steel and BVS. I think that as what I mentioned a while ago, this is this isn't like a standalone Guardians of the Galaxy, type of movie. It like the entire story revolves around everything that happened from Man of Steel to Batman v Superman to, Wonder Woman was released prior Justice League, if you don't watch Wonder Woman, I think you're still going to be able to appreciate Snyder Cut. Yeah. But I mean, it would help if you watch Wonder Woman, because I mean, you would. I can't go into detail, but but even if you didn't watch Wonder Woman, the 1, 2, 3 of Zack Snyder, Man of Steel, BVS to Justice League, I think it's a must for you to be able to understand. Even though you may already know some characters by, just by pop culture. Yeah. It's still integral for the entire flow of the story and motivations and all of that. And of course, I mean, at the beginning of Snyder Cut, if you didn't watch Batman v Superman, you're gonna be like, "Hold up, what just happened?"
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Same thoughts, Sergey.
Yeah, I guess so. I agree with that. Because let's see, if you're just going by, like, I've seen Superman. And I've seen his movies before, so many origin movies. But if you're basing it off of that, you won't be able to get into the gist of these Justice League character. You're not going to be able to appreciate it. Same thing with the kind of tricky relationship that Batman and Superman had. So, like, you're going to understand why there's so much friction with their characters in Justice League. What's the reason behind it?
Right.
So, as to the other characters,
I like.
There's been barely any exposition on them with the other films. Yeah, it really doesn't matter. But like what Jesse said, very important to watch BVS, Man of Steel, just for you to get a grip on what set off this chain of events. And so you have a better understanding of where it's going.
I like that. I think you summed that really well up, especially the when you mentioned about the relationship with Batman and Superman and how the things that unfold in BVS, it just gives you more context and more appreciation for why the characters interact the way they do in Justice League, right? Like the way, like, whether it's the way they talk to each other, the way they look at each other, there's context to those things. And I think it's still watchable without it, but it just doesn't fall as great as it would if we had that context. So thank you both for sharing that. So I think the overall, obviously what we're gathering here, and I hope, we're trying to say this as unbiased as we can.
Spoiler free.
And spoiler free, even though we're fans, right? But definitely is a watch. For those of you who would like to check it out, but definitely also do consider revisiting Man of Steel and BVS, right, to get the full context. So definitely it is a must watch. And now let's jump into the spoiler, because I can't hold it back anymore.
Finally!
Spoiler warning, get out if you haven't seen it.
Okay, so again, if you guys have not seen the movie yet, you probably want to pause. Go watch, we'll come back in like 5 hours or 4 hours after you've seen it.
Get out of here.
And then watch this video again, right? So to be honest, like in terms of like this part of the talk, I haven't really laid out like what we're going to talk about, but like I just want to, let's just go into like the certain sequences, right? So maybe let's go into specifics. Like what I think if we jump to a bunch of sequences, it might, that'll be crazy, like to tackle all at once. So maybe talk about like one sequence for you guys that, stood out for you coming into this movie that maybe you didn't expect, or like, hey, okay, so this was very different from, I think that's really also where some of this is going to stem from, is like, that was a major difference from what I saw originally in the Justice League, people are calling.
Well, the entire movie was a major difference.
Right. Okay. So like, a sequence or something. Let's go to Sergey this time. Anything that stood out for you? A lot, right? But
you're gonna hate me for saying this, but what stood out for me was all of the slow-mo scenes, which at some point became too unbearable for me. I know it's a Zack Snyder signature thing, but I think it's like people always accuse him of doing this in this in the name of character development and exposition. Like the slow-mo was supposed to convey all of the personality and thoughts and feelings of that character, but yeah, I think he overdid it in some points. But the thing that stood out for me, oh my gosh, he is a master of cinematics. Like his shots, the dark shots, the expansive, views. It really draws you in. Like he had this the first sequence when spoiler, right?
Yes.
Superman dies.
Yeah.
And the death cry, which was reverberating all over the world and reaching Atlantis, reaching, where did it go next? Themyscira. Yeah. That whole sequence I loved. It was really, really good because you get to see the different parts of the DC universe and the different, characters that would play a part in the main storyline. Mm-hmm. And I loved how it was dramatic. They had a lot of dramatic scenes with that. So yeah, that's one of the major parts that I loved initially when I got into the film. So yeah.
Speaking on that, like the opening was crazy. Like I was like, wow. So this is what it's supposed to look like. We didn't have that weird cell phone shot of him with the
CGI mustache.
Yeah, we didn't have that anymore, right? So I really got into it as soon, Where you go, Jess? What about you?
I actually want to piggyback on Sergey's mention about one of the cons of the movie, which is the slow motion.
Yeah.
Because when I was watching it with Danny, we were like, I bet you we can take down the running time of this movie by 30 minutes or 40 minutes. If that slow motion was just increased, sped up just a little.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, maybe a bit too much of the slow-mo and also too much of the Amazonian battle cry music every time. Comes
it's the wailing woman in the background thing. Oh my gosh. What I remember from that is watching Spartacus or 300.
Yeah.
The first time he did it was in, I believe, Themyscira. He used that. I said, that's fine. That's kind of fitting. But then it pops up again over and over.
Even in the middle of battle scenes.
Yeah.
She just comes out. It just pops up.
Yeah.
I liked it at first. And then there was just that part where, I would have wished that they would have played her music that we're listening to. Yeah. But there was a specific part.
Keep the scene going. Scene going.
There was a specific part at the very end where Batman's on his vehicle, right? And then Wonder Woman comes flying in and you hear, whoa, right? I half thought that she was saying something out loud, whoa. And then I realized, that's the music in the back.
That's not her.
Right, yeah, that tripped me up. I was like, oh man, the music. But speaking on the, the slow-mos that you mentioned, right? Obviously he uses it a lot, but maybe you can talk about what sequences you're okay, slow-mos deserve right there. And then another sequence where this didn't have to be that slow. You could have sped this one up.
Okay, so there are slow-mos that set the mood, which that's fine. There's slow-mos that have to be iconic, that scene where it's all of them, boom, and then that's the Justice League, right? But okay, you got to get that shot in. But if it's the slow-mo where this isn't a slow-mo, maybe actually this is the first thing that pops into my head, but it's a really slow scene where Aquaman disappears and then Bruce isn't able to recruit him, and then suddenly you have a slow-mo.
Oh my gosh, I was just about to say that. It's the choir by the sea. So unnecessary.
We were there for a while.
I was that could have gone faster. And I think it's those moments where he likes to simmer too much.
Right.
Simmering. He's milking some parts too much.
There's a scene as the cyborg football sequence.
Oh.
Right? I felt it was faster.
See, let me jump in here because I have to be honest. This is where I fell asleep for 10 minutes. I did. I was when that started, I was this is the longest football game that I've ever watched. And it's like, do you really have to slow down each and every move? Like a couple of moves, fine, and then back to like normal speed. But up to the time when they were celebrating, it was still
right. Yeah.
slow. Well, yeah.
Slow-mo on the mom.
No, literally, I fell asleep during that sequence, and then I woke up after 10 minutes. So.
And you didn't even, did you want to rewind or you just kept going?
No, I didn't want to go through that again.
That scene was definitely too long.
Like I can understand. Go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry, even like the like you would think like everything could have been like gone through in a montage. I mean, at least just that football scene. But even the moment where he saw that the empty chair was like it was empty. Yeah. It was so slow.
Oh yeah.
I was able to like comedically just go like look over at Danny and do like a scene from a Ben Stiller movie and go like, where is Papa? Where is Papa? It's still happening. The scene's still happening.
Yeah. Yeah. It was like I can understand. Okay, you want to go slow mo on Cyborg, but then not only are you slow on Cyborg, but then you go slow on his opponent, who's not even like important, right? And then and then you get slow on the mom, and then slow on the chair, and then slow on like there was a lot. But
but you know what was hella fast though? But it worked. Oh. When they got into the car crash, I was like, oh, he kept that scene fast. but it worked though, because like it was one of those like, oh, it's gonna be an accident. And then like, oh, dang, okay. Yeah. So
see that worked because you wanted to highlight how fast the Flash was.
Yeah.
So that for me was an effective scene. But again, like what you said, he has this tendency to draw things out.
Yeah.
Like, okay. The weirdest part for me was seeing the hot dog by the girl's face.
Oh, yeah.
And they were like, why are you like extending that shot? Like, what is that about? I don't get that.
I told Kim, I was like watching, I was like, this is kind of creepy. Like if he wasn't a superhero, he just like really like went and looked at a girl and just like admired her, who he doesn't.
And then
know.
Like, like, it is creepy.
It is. But in terms of so in terms of like obviously the slow mo is drawing stuff out, right? One of the things, I don't know what you guys think about it, but like one of the things I was interested to have noticed was in the beginning when we were just getting into Aquaman and his story, right? There was just a lot more there. It didn't just go by like that. And I think also part of it has to do with like the way the movie's introduced in comparison to the old one, right? Where I think in the old one, it was like you had Batman on the roof, and then the parademons, and then like it was and
then the parademon that blew up suddenly showed like a drawing of the mother box from its blood.
Right, exactly. Weird. So we didn't have that anymore, which actually I think overall like the whole parademons and fear and all of that like was totally out of the window, which I was glad for. But just watching like the opening sequence of Aquaman, what did you guys think about it being more drawn out? Because that's literally the first thing when I was watching. I was like, oh, okay, so this is new, and there's just more context. What did you guys think? Did you guys like it, or what were your thoughts on that? Jess, let's go with Jess.
I think it was better in a way that it was direct to the point, where it really showed Bruce wanted to recruit and he was serious about recruiting. Because a lot of Josh Whedon's scenes really had to put in some comedic moments that were honestly weren't so funny. They were just kind of off. So you had this tension between Arthur and Bruce, and then it carried through. Unlike Whedon's first cut, where he was like, "So you can talk to fish."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So
I remember that. All right.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, he had that.
I just realized that line wasn't in there.
Yes.
Yeah, it wasn't in there. Yeah. And also what wasn't in there was like Bruce going like, "Can anyone tell me what the drawings on the walls are about those boxes and stuff?" It wasn't there. Like it was just like I'm recruiting people and there's this guy, Yeah. So I think it was direct to the point, and it carries the right tone for the whole movie. Yeah. And I think that kind of resonates with everyone. The context or their backstory, for whatever backstory they can have in this movie, really fits the tone of the movie itself, and it sets a good basis or a base for at least where they're coming from, like Cyborg and his dilemma, his relationship with his dad, Flash, and thank God Flash is not like a bumbly fool in this movie.
Yeah.
I mean, he looks cooler in this movie.
Yeah.
Wonder Woman and Bruce didn't have that weird dynamic of like, you know, in the first movie they
didn't fight.
Yeah, they were arguing. They had like that drama. Here they were like, we got to get down to business, and it was really about the team getting down to business rather than like bumbling together, which I think Joss Whedon was trying to do because that's what he did with the Avengers.
Yeah. Oh, you know, going off of that, because it, you know, reminded me of that scene where they're in the hangar, right? And I remember when I watched Joss Whedon's version, I was like, oh, okay, so this is the part where he really, you know, talks smack to Diana. And at the time, I appreciated it because I was kind of, ooh, this is cool, like drama that we're not used to getting, right? And you know, I could see that like in the animated movie or something. But but then when I didn't see that, it was one of the first moments where I was like, oh, so that wasn't the original vision, and I think it actually does work. And it led me to the moment, like my first, like, okay, I don't know if you guys had moments, but I had moments where I was just like, like out loud, like, oh my, like, and the moment for me, the first moment where I did that was the part where Barry's sitting there in the hangar. He's like, so, am I going to say it? I don't want to say it. And then like the box is turning and then Superman shows up on top of the box. I was just like,
in the original one, he was like, "Oh my God, Pet Cemetery, Cemetery."
And that wasn't in there too.
Yeah.
Right? So, Sergey, what about you? What moment were you? Did you yell out loud at any point, or at least what moment were you kind of like, oh, like that was the feeling? Or was there not?
Or was there a lot?
I'm trying to like really think about that, and I can't say I had that moment.
What about what about the ending? The ending, the very last.
What ending?
When they killed. Oh yeah, what ending? Because there's like a bunch of endings, right?
Which
like,
one?
It wasn't ending actually. It just kept on going.
Just kept going. No, the when they killed Steppenwolf. Oh my God.
You know what? Okay. For me, it didn't have that. You know, I couldn't pick out a scene that really made me go whoa, but I appreciated the fight scenes, especially towards the end.
Yeah.
Where, you know, they were beating up on Steppenwolf, and you see all of them using all of these moves that we haven't seen before. And you would expect that Superman would be overshadowing the rest of the cast. Like, okay, like what happened with the first film, like Aquaman and Wonder Woman would just be in the background, you know, just taking up the slack. But this one, you see them like getting highlighted with different scenes.
Yes,
so they weren't overshadowed. That one I appreciated. But maybe because I'm not a hardcore DC fan, so it didn't give me like, you know,
like chills or anything.
Unlike, you know, with the Marvel films when what was this? Wanda.
The first time Thanos comes out.
When Wanda and there's a Vision were in the train tracks, and then Proxima Midnight and the other villains showed up and were beating up on them, and then this train goes by, and then Captain America was there, and then you have that resounding, you know, orchestra in the background, and then, you know, it's gonna go down now. They're gonna get saved. And of course, the Wakanda scene with the fight scene. Those are the ones that gave me like
Thor's
the
scene.
goosebumps. Oh yeah,
in Wakanda.
One.
Yeah,
that was epic.
So I definitely
here in this film, I would say that my emotions were kept in check, nice and even all throughout.
Yeah.
But the highlights for me were the fight scenes. I love the fights. They were really well done. Really well done.
I liked how, so the biggest difference as well, right, in the ending is the fact that he's not, Steppenwolf isn't killed off of like this random fear thing, right?
So
they killed him. They killed him in front of Apocalypse.
Darkseid.
Darkseid. They killed him right in front of him.
Aquaman
That was
impales
gruesome, by
him.
the way.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
I actually didn't expect that. When I saw that trident go through his chest, I was like, oh, is this happening? Are they going to do it? And then I was reminded this is an R-rated
film,
right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It is.
It's going to go down. So,
that
they
ending,
lopped his head off and they threw him back to his masters. And that was it.
Dude, it's like everyone had a big pivotal contribution to that ending, you know, like Cyborg with, actually, we got to give it to Flash for like, you know, pulling it through. As in, like, he didn't have this much coolness
in the first one. The first film, yeah. You know, he didn't. The whole. Is it just me, or was him rewinding time? Was that introduced in the first film, or just
no? It wasn't.
No, he was just saving Russian kids.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And so I was watching it, and when they first introduced the time thing, I mean, it was when he was running, right, and the mother box dropped. And then it rewind. I was like, wait a second. Like that was my feeling. I was like, whoa.
That was different.
Because when he said like, you know, crazy things happen when I go really fast. I was like,
in the exposition, like verbal exposition, he says like it messes with time.
Yeah. So and that wasn't there, right? Stakes. That wasn't there in the first film.
The first one, nah.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So that's what also led to that moment where he's like, I gotta go fast, and then he's like, I gotta break the rule here. I was just kind of like,
it was like a foreshadowing for Crisis Infinite Earths.
Right.
Yes. Actually, you know what? I didn't have like a moment, but I had so many moments that I just had to go like this. That makes more sense. That makes more sense like that.
Okay.
Yeah. It's more like that makes sense.
Yeah.
Why? And you know what they also removed there was his line where he said, Flash, I'm talking about Flash, like, I just push people out of the way, and that's what makes him a hero. But here, you get to see him shine as a hero because, you know, even though he's new at this, but his heart is in it. And he's not scared. I mean, he had this big gaping gash in his side. Yeah. He was injured. But he was like, I'm just going to do this. Yeah, whatever happens.
Give me a second.
Exactly.
Yeah, and he wanted to keep going.
He didn't tell Batman, like, dude, look at me. I'm going to die here. Yeah. Can you give me a break?
And in the first one, he was like, oh, what do I do?
Yeah.
You know? And Batman was just like, okay, just save one. Here he's like, I'm going to save everyone. I'm just going to.
Yeah. That's great. Like, Sergey, what you mentioned of, like, you know, where he's like, what do I do here? That's definitely, I feel like if we were watching the first film, that's probably something he would say for, like, comedic effect, right? Yeah. Kind of give it off that, like,
very witty-esque.
Witty, yeah. But, like, oh, man, he just manned up. And so that was really, really cool. And the fact that, since we're talking about the saving people thing, right? So obviously one of the things that has always been like people have been talking about is like, and this was like back in the Man of Steel and even into BBS where they're like, you know, Superman's a hero and he's not saving anybody and all those people died and all of that, right? And I think that was a major now the city was abandoned, right? The city was abandoned, so it didn't have to go through that whole thing. But
dude, I like that fact that they just did away with that Russian town.
Yes.
Yeah. Because it was pretty useless to the plot. Yeah. From the first film. I was like, there's nothing happening here with that Russian family getting like, you know, terrified by all of these flying insects.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's good that they did away with that. I was A-okay with that.
And what what I also liked as well is that even though that aspect of it, right, which is like saving people from the Russian town, like that wasn't there, they still inserted it actually in the scene where they get Silas Stone from the warehouse or the abandoned place.
And the other scientists.
Yeah,
when they rescued them.
I was like, hey, we didn't see this before, but I like this. This is pretty cool. I mean, what did you guys think of them? Like transferring the hero saving from because one of the things that kind of took me out of the first film was like when Superman comes back and then somebody's screaming, he's go, wait, civilians. Like I'm just kind of like, okay, that just feels like a thing that we're just trying to get to so people can say, oh, he saved.
It's like dude, you're fighting a big villain in front of you, and now you're just gonna abandon that. To save you. I mean, I get it, but priorities, right?
Yeah, I think this movie really knew where to put their pieces for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, as in even Silas himself, Silas Stone, his relationship with Victor, and even that time where he realized that the Justice League, well, they weren't the Justice League yet, but when they had to use the, when he had to put everyone to safety, or even the small moments where Victor saved the cop. It was really like them making the most out of everything in the situation and where they were. And I think without taking away the highlight of like, Superman's going berserk, or like, okay, this is the final battle, so we got to highlight that.
Right.
Because the first one just seemed like it was all over the place, and a lot of it was like, okay, are we getting this for a comedic effect? Are we getting this because they don't know what to do with Flash, so let's just have him save the family?
Yeah. Well, and to pick it, like, to jump off of that, Jess, I think because you're talking about Victor and Victor, right? Is his name?
Yeah, Victor and Silas, the son and dad.
So that Victor is a cyborg's name, right?
Yeah. No. Yeah.
I was like, I just know him as cyborg.
It's not Victor Wood; it's Victor Stone.
Victor Stone. Yeah. So for example, with I think you mentioned this to me, Jess, as well. Before we actually watched it, you were saying how much of a more important role Cyborg has to this movie, and the actual. Like his actual like makeup and technology, and why it makes sense that he's the guy to do the job. Because I think in the first film you don't really understand that. I didn't understand it as much, but here you do. So maybe you can talk a little bit about that, just for people who are watching. Like how much of a role play was Cyborg now, and how it expanded with what he is.
Dang, his role was well. A lot of people say he's like the heart of the story, because he's the guy, in the end. I guess I'll start it from the end, when he said he wants to go all out, even though it's dangerous, because when he says I have nothing to lose, and he just lost his, he just lost his dad, who sacrificed himself to mark the box so that they could find it, which makes more sense. It's one of those like, that makes more sense than the first one where Bruce asks Aquaman, hey, can you ask your fishes to see where the boxes are? Right? Just Victor being this character that is put into a story where he has to mature and see further purpose of why he's back, and his relationship with his dad, and trying to find that piece in him, because especially with a tape recorder, I was like, that tied in a lot better than his relationship with his dad in the first one, and the fact that he is from the mother box, and that the things that he's able to do with the mother box assists the whole story as it flows, just for them to understand as well the situation. And I think the fact that this is just a small thing, but this is it speaks in detail of how Zack Snyder is he really wrote or edited and made sure everything was in play. Was when they said, but when Victor was created through the mother box, why was it that why didn't the mother box anyone sense the mother box? And they were like, that's because that was before Superman died. So when Superman died, it's a proof that these mother boxes are sentient beings. They're advanced technological boxes, but they're also sentient. There is also life within them, and they sense these things. And that
is a new thing, right? That wasn't in the first film, so that I kind of got into, and I actually understood how those boxes work, because before I was like, I don't get it. I mean, they were just there for a plot device, but I didn't get what it was for, but with this one, yeah, like what you said, that makes sense. That makes sense. So they came alive when Superman died.
Yeah,
and that's how they sensed each other, and that's how Steppenwolf was, you know, tracking them down one by one. Exactly. So like before, it was kind of random. Like, how did Steppenwolf know where those boxes were?
Right.
I mean, there wasn't any explanation before about that. So yeah, I didn't get that.
I liked how they basically, for me, I remember watching that sequence. I liked how it answered a question that I hadn't thought of, but I probably would have, which was, you know, the fact that they didn't come to life and contact Apocalypse when Superman was up there. Like that to me, like you, Sergey, that really got me into it. I'm just curious because, okay, so I don't know if in my comic readings I'd ever encountered the mother boxes, but like, Sergey, do you remember reading about the mother boxes in the comics at all? Or is that a film?
No, my first experience hearing about mother boxes was the animated series.
Yeah.
So okay, that was it's kind of a weird notion for me to wrap my head around, like boxes are sentient beings, but whatever. I mean, it works for them. It works for them. I thought before they were just like teleportation devices, you know,
like boom tubes.
Like they boom, the boom tubes.
Yeah, the boom tubes.
So that's it.
Was that a boom tube at the end? No, like because it was weird because I didn't understand. Is like, see, Steppenwolf's head got to the other side, and Darkseid's sitting there like, oh, we have to go the old-fashioned way. Hey, you just had a portal open. Why couldn't you just go through that? How did that come about?
Oh, we don't know yet. I guess.
Right?
Well,
that is to be revealed in the next Justice League.
Maybe.
I thought they could just like visually see what was happening, and then when his head went in there, I was like, oh, why do you have to go the long way? Anyway.
Well, we don't know. Maybe they will use it because like what happened in the animated series, as well as I think Justice League War, the movie series also, they use the boom tubes, but like bigger boom tubes to invade.
Yeah.
So we don't know. Maybe in the future, maybe in the next one, if it's made, maybe they're like gathering their forces first, and then maybe they're gonna use the boom tubes to. Because I remember this one episode, this Superman animated series episode where Darkseid was invading Earth, and then he killed one of the main characters. It was a dark episode.
Okay. Yeah.
He like Omega beamed one of Superman's close friends, cop, who was a cop, and he boom tube away. And Superman was like, no, like that. And then this was like the animated series. This is the one for kids, right? And it was such a dark moment. So so maybe in the future they're gonna use the boom tubes.
Or maybe they're just gonna have Doctor Strange do this.
Wait. Okay, so actually, exactly on that, because I want to. So Jesse, you're talking about Darkseid. I do want to jump to him in right after this, but off the subject of like Sergey got into it because he was with Doctor Strange. I thought to myself as soon as you mentioned boom tube, I said, okay, I can appreciate the boom tubes in the future. I don't know that there will ever be a sequence, however, where I can appreciate like the way the portals in the boom tubes, or at least in the Marvel setting, was introduced in that sequence in Endgame, where they all just start opening up. And I know this is Justice League discussion, but I gotta, shout out to that sequence.
They always cross over.
Right? Where yes, they do. Where they all open up, and then like Captain America's like, Avengers! And he's just like, assemble. Like that one.
You be careful here. You be careful. Don't say bad words, all right? You're treading on dangerous grounds here.
Oh, I liked it. I really liked it.
No. What was the problem? I'm gonna try and explain it away.
Okay, go. The problem with that?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I had no problem. What I'm saying is that when Jess was talking about boom tubes, I was telling him I don't know that I can get as excited for anything that gets introduced in DC. I don't think that they can introduce the boom tubes and the whole portal thing. I mean, they'll be able to use it, but the way it was so meaningful.
The effect is not the same.
The effect just won't be the same because they're going to use the boom tubes, and then like they're going to get lots of like heroes over there, or like a lot of
okay. Yeah. Like do an end game kind of finale.
Yeah, I just don't think it'll reach that epicness, right? Because one, the meaning
especially with the soundtrack.
Because the meaning is also different because like in Endgame, these are all the people that were gone for like 5 years. So when
portals,
like, on your left, like on your left, on your left. I was like, right. So that's all I was saying. Like
right.
when you mentioned that, Jess, and then when Sergio was talking about the Doctor Strange doing that, I was like, definitely, I am on board with that. Like, role and the way it was used. Like, it wasn't just like it just gave it so much more meaning. It just wasn't like a thing that, so.
Exactly.
So anyway, okay, so to jump off of that, you did talk about Darkseid, and I do want to ask you guys, he's like the biggest, like one of the biggest like differences. Sergey, what were your thoughts on Darkseid being included in the movie this time around?
That was a good addition. It wasn't an afterthought. It was actually important to the story, and you can see that it is world building. So they're preparing the stage for the next few movies, Justice League 2 and whatnot. So it was a good foreshadowing, similar to, again, going back to Marvel, similar to how they kind of introduced Thanos in different movies, and just, a snippet here, a few seconds there, but you get to see the looming threat, in the future. So I think they set it up really well. And you can see that, okay, this is going to be a big threat because he has a big army and he has his henchmen right there with him. And you get a sense of how powerful this being is. Yeah. So yeah, I like that addition. And you going into that, you also see Steppenwolf's motivations and why he is doing what he's doing. So you get to understand him as a villain as well, whereas before he was so one-dimensional. It's I'm the bad guy. I'm going to beat you guys up, and that's it.
Well, that's an interesting... go ahead.
Here also you see that even though he's this like really strong being, he's more afraid of Darkseid than anything else. You can see the fear in his face.
Yeah.
Too. So
what I wanted to ask was that ask on that is, do you think, because as fans we understand Darkseid, we know his context and his background, do you think it still works for people who are watching it and are like, who's this guy, right? Because in the same way that we can look at Steppenwolf and say, all right, now Steppenwolf, he's not a one-dimensional character because we understand that he reports to a master, right? But at the same time, we look at that master who is Darkseid, and we can look at him and say, so what drives him to do the things that he's doing? Because unlike in Marvel, where it did take some time to kind of get Thanos to start moving, and then at the end of it, you go, oh, that's his history and his background, right? We don't get that here. So do you think that the introduction of Darkseid is more advantageous to the fans, or do you think it still works even for the non-fan and gives them some understanding? What are your thoughts on that, Sergey?
A lot of fans would again be drawing parallels to that and thinking he's a bargain basement Thanos. Basically, you think about it, he's the equivalent of Thanos in the DC universe.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So, but younger. Older.
Yeah, older. Yeah, but comparisons are inevitable. But Dark is his own being. I think he's more of a threat actually compared to Thanos. Like the Omega beams, nothing stops those. Those are really powerful, and I think he's more. Think about it. The motivations for both characters might be the same, but they're going about it in different ways. I don't know. I like the introduction of Darkseid. I think he's important and integral to the story.
Right.
That's it. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. What about Jess? What about you?
In the movie universe, I think even non-fans will be intrigued because they introduced a hint of Darkseid's motivation to conquer Earth, which is the anti-life equation. So even if you're not a fan, people will be like, "What is this anti-life equation?" The same way as in the Marvel universe, people would be like, Infinity Stones. What's gonna happen? So
that's true.
But actually, I would like to what Sergey mentioned. Darkseid actually feels like Thanos is a threat as well, but Darkseid is actually more of like that villain that has a really strict agenda of conquest. Because if you look at Thanos is Okay, so just in comparison, right? So I'm thankful Sir Jay is a Marvel fan because he's more of a pros for Thanos rather than Darkseid. Because even though Darkseid was created earlier in the DC universe, he was really made to be that big bad guy, conquest, dominating and everything. Thanos, on the other hand, has evolved as a character throughout the years. And even in Endgame, even the cinematic universe, he had that motivation of creating, a better living, quote unquote, for the universe. And if you're a fan of the comics, if you actually read the comics, Thanos is not actually a villain. He just has different agendas that change throughout the years. Like he would also work with the Avengers for a certain time. He has different agendas here. Wow. Yeah. So Thanos is not that one-dimensional. Well, hindi naman one-dimensional, but he's not as quote-unquote evil conqueror as Darkseid is. He just has a different depth to his character, and he evolves throughout the years. So they share the same body type and structure and look, but
purple.
One's purple, one's gray. If you change the contrast and tone, they may be the same. But as characters, though, they develop differently. But going back to your question on will fans appreciate Darkseid, like what Sergey said, Darkseid poses more motivation to why the big bad guy Steppenwolf is doing what he's doing, and it also poses the bigger threat. Of the reason why the Justice League have to, unite and to expand hashtag Justice League Unlimited maybe in the future. And it just gives more questions to the fans to ponder, like who's Darkseid, where does he come from? Okay, he's one of the old gods, but he's a new god now because he's,
right.
Yeah, he used to be what was his name? Euxis. I don't know how to pronounce it. He used to be that, and then now he's like Darkseid. He's like that. And what is the anti-life equation? How is it gonna turn out? We have this vision.
Hang on, was he a regular alien being before he was powered up?
Darkseid was his original name was Euxis. I don't know how to pronounce it. Yeah, but he used to be he was one of the sons of one of the old gods, if I'm not mistaken. I have to double check my history. And then he rose to power, and then he conquered through his own fist. And okay, for all the dire DC fans there, I'm sorry if I'm getting my history wrong. I know it. I just don't memorize it by heart.
Yeah.
So something to that effect, right?
I put you on the spot.
Yeah. So we still have that question: what is the anti-life equation? And we have the nightmare sequences by Bruce Wayne.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Okay,
and
so
get into that.
What's gonna happen?
Now let's jump. I like the connection. Let's jump into that. You were talking about context and just fleshing out more parts of the universe. I think that's one of the biggest difference in this film is that not only did you have the character exposition, but you also had just world building a bit more, right? And especially in the nightmare sequence. So, Sergey, what did you think of the nightmare sequence there at the end?
Also, this was the epilogue part, right?
Yeah.
Yes. And you know what? By the time the fight scene finale was done, I was like, okay, done. And now we're gonna have an end credit kind of scene, and this will be just like a couple of minutes. And I was so ready to go to the bathroom that time that I was like, my emotions are spent. I've got my resolution and I'm ready to move on with my life kind of thing. Yeah. But apparently, no, it's not yet done. So for those who are going to watch this, who haven't watched it yet, be prepared for an extended end credit scene. And it's kind of long, to be honest. It's a whole sequence. And I was like, I liked it though, because again, it was setting the scene, setting the stage for the next movie, basically, and what it's going to be about. And this is kind of like a view into what can go wrong in a DC universe when heroes go bad.
Well, actually, off of that, first of all, for the people who are watching that haven't seen it yet, and you're already in this part of our discussion, then you're definitely.
How dare you?
But what did you guys think about what they were actually talking about? So like when him and like Joker, right? Just to see Joker there, I was like, what? And I thought he was going to have a line, but they had that whole discussion. I mean, I know what he was.
No, my first question was, why is Deathstroke with the heroes?
Right.
Why is he there? So something happened there, and I'm interested to see that. I mean, originally I heard that they were planning a Batman movie with Deathstroke as the main villain.
Yeah.
So the storyline that I think Zack Snyder was building up had to tie into that, why he's there with the superheroes as well. So yeah, that's one thing.
I actually have intel on like the supposed plan of Zack Snyder.
Intel. What is this about?
Just with a lot of like articles that I've been reading on what was supposed to happen. But basically, like, so since we're talking about like the nightmare sequence, right? This movie kind of justifies like why it was there in BVS, because like in the first one, the first Justice League movie, it was basically like BVS. Flash comes in, and Lois is the key, right? And then in Justice League, we think it's like heavily implied that like, okay, Bruce brought Lois, Superman's good, he didn't turn evil, they did it. But here it's like Bruce was kept doubting, like he kept questioning, like, I saw something and it was about Lois, but it doesn't seem like this is it. And then we have that nightmare sequence with Bruce and Joker and Deathstroke and Mira, and we get to see that, and we get a more insightful discussion that, wait a minute, this is it's not a dream, this could be a premonition of the future. Right. Darkseid actually does invade Earth, and someone doesn't save Lois, or something happens, and Superman becomes Darkseid's, right-hand man.
Are you guys familiar with the Injustice storyline?
Yeah, I was gonna get to that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna get to that, where like that the Injustice storyline could have been source material. Because Joker in Injustice, right? Joker killed Lois, and then Superman kills Joker.
Wait! For the people watching, go ahead and tell them, just in general, like the actual story. Yeah. No, it's okay. No, spoil it, because we're in the spoiler part.
Okay. So basically, a nutshell: Injustice. Joker kills. No. Joker makes Superman think that it makes Superman
hallucinate.
Hallucinate. Sorry, thank you very much. Thank you. Hallucinate, right? And through hallucinations, he kills Lois Lane.
Because he thinks it's Doomsday.
Yeah, because he thinks it's Doomsday. Yeah, and then so that drives Superman crazy. Batman tries to stop him, but he kills Joker, and that brings him down the line of the Injustice storyline where Superman is evil and all that. So
like for context, like just to jump off of that, like the way, like the fact that it wasn't just like I accidentally killed her. Like he was like pummeling Doomsday as he would a person, and Lois was pregnant with his kid, his baby.
Oh right, I forgot about that.
Oh yeah, that's right.
She was pregnant, and
that's gruesome,
right? And so, and then the whole reason that Batman and Superman had a fallout after this. So okay, for people watching, Injustice, there's a video game called Injustice, and then there was a comic series that released off of this, right? Where what does the world look like if the strongest dude in the world becomes a bad guy? And this was the starting point where he was tricked into killing his own wife. And the crazy thing is, Batman, he's dealt with Joker his entire time. Batman has just a stronger mental like stability, like when it comes to dealing with Joker.
Resistance.
And Superman is not used to that kind of thing because he doesn't deal with those kinds of villains in Metropolis, right? Usually they're just big, strong, bad guys. But when he had to deal with Joker for the first time, it really set him off because this is his first time dealing with it. And it also made him mad because, you know, Batman's code, in even though all the horrible things that Joker has done, he still has not killed him, right? It was very easy that Superman, after that emotional thing, killed Joker, and that spawned his justification that, look, to eradicate evil, I will be judge, jury, and executioner, and I will just kill people who aren't being good, right? And that set up the world of injustice. And so that to me, like when I was, you know, whenever they get hints of the nightmare sequence, and they, you know, and it confirmed for me. Like I was in the beginning when BVS and they showed that a little bit, I was like, could it be that? But then I watched this, I was like, oh my gosh, like it makes me sad if this doesn't push through, we don't get to see that world.
I know, right?
Right.
Well, but that is a really good storyline, and that will make for a really awesome movie, I think. And I hope that when that does come out, because, you know, I remember when Man of Steel came out and then BVS, and people were really upset with a Superman that didn't save people and was like, had his lines of like, I'll save the day and all of this. So my only fear at the time when BVS first came out, that, oh my gosh, with the reaction that the people are having now, I don't think I'll ever be able to see an Injustice storyline because people just won't like it. They're like, Superman never does bad stuff. No, right? But I think after this film and people can appreciate it, hopefully we can jump into that more. Obviously, if Snyder's still in there, or if anybody would just like to continue the story. But but the one thing that go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say, so the intel that I got.
Yes. Oh yeah. Right. Go.
Yeah. So basically,
we just like branched off into a different timeline.
This is what happens when we're so excited about this stuff.
So basically, the intel that I got was that they were getting Injustice as a source material. Batman's nightmare sequence was more of a premonition of something that will happen, and Joker and Batman's discussion was more or less about like, hey, like you know, something that happened that caused that nightmare sequence. So the intel I have was that the original plan was that if Zack Snyder were to continue this Snyderverse, the second Justice League would the main setting would be in this post-apocalyptic world of them explaining backwards na parang this is what's happening now, and then slowly revealing how that came to be and explaining backwards, and it's gonna tie into him telling Flash to go back to the past and stuff like that. So it in a way it dives into time travel, which is what they did in Endgame, but in a different way, because this is more in the premonition. Yeah, this is one of those like cause and effect kind of like debates. Like,
is this tied into Flashpoint as well?
Yes.
I don't know that I don't know. Maybe it could be, but Flashpoint kasi, the producer, the director and producers and the people writing Flashpoint came after just Justice League. Yeah. So I don't know if they're tying it in, but originally they said Zack Snyder had this vision of Justice League 2. And then after Justice League 2, he would have Man of Steel 2, which is where we have Superman established as Superman na. So, but we don't know where it's going now because we don't even know if Zack Snyder is still going to be pushing through with things. So that's my intel. I don't know how reliable that is because we don't know, we don't know. But that's just one of the intel that I got from a couple of reviews and articles that I was able to read.
So do you guys think that because of the resounding, success basically of this second iteration of Justice League, seeing how a lot of the fans loved it, a lot of the critics loved it as well. I mean, some of the critics hated it still, but that's expected. But overall, it had positive reviews. Do you think that it can be a jump-off point for the big wigs of the company to actually push through with solid offerings in the future for a very coherent Justice League or DCEU universe? Or are they still gonna play catch up with Marvel and try to one up Marvel, even though it's impossible at this point?
Yeah. I think it's really going to depend when we talk about the success of it, right? Because obviously it's a success for the fans, and I like that. I wonder if it's a success for the studio because obviously, right? This is streaming, right? And so there are ways for you to watch it without having to go onto HBO. And unlike in the theater business where they have lots of returns on that right away. It's a bit different now. So I don't know from that perspective. And I also don't know from the perspective of the producers of how they envision going forward with all the other characters as well. Because I think the thing that they have to get in their head is I think they've always struggled with fans or get more mainstream people in. Right? And that was, I think, ever since Man of Steel. And then once we got to BVS, there was a lot of that. There was a lot of this, it felt like justification to because I appreciate it, but there was a lot of people that were saying, this isn't Superman and all of that. So you would see these sequences of they're going to be fighting in a place where there's no people. So he doesn't have to save anybody. Like these little inserted things that I think if the producers probably knew who they were targeting, right away from the get-go. Like, for example, I don't think a Joss Whedon film of Justice League would be bad, right? If, for example, I think the one that was previous didn't work because obviously they're two, like you mentioned, two different approaches, and it's just a mismatch, right? But I think if there was a certain director, if Joss Whedon had it from the beginning, and he had an idea of this is my approach, because for example, the things that for the people watching, the comparisons that people have with Avengers and how the characters interact with each other and how they can go from serious to playful banter. I've seen that my entire life with Justice League Unlimited and Young Justice and it's there. The characters are able to do that. So I don't think that approach would be bad. I just think the producers are probably always, they don't know what they want to do. Is really the point. They're not sure if we'll take it this way or not, and that's I think what I love about Marvel is they're very set on it.
They got Kevin.
Yeah, they got and so even with Marvel, even though for example, they can have movies where it's all serious, or maybe they have a movie that has some humor, right? And then maybe they go all the way out and it's all humor, and then now people are like, oh, that's a little cheesy. But they still own it, and they're like, we're just going to continue with this pace. They don't look at that movie and go, oh, crap, we got to change our whole entire thing. But I think...
Guardians of the Galaxy and Ragnarok.
Yeah. And they just stuck with it. So I think for me, personally, them continuing it will probably depend on that. And like Jess said, they need a Kevin Feige who's just really good at running the ship. There you go, Jess. What do you think?
For DC, for DC, just to differentiate themselves from the MCU, I think they should stick with this kind of tone.
Yes.
Kind of dark, kind of gritty, but it has its moments, light moments, but the atmosphere is set. It's there. Yeah. And that's what you'd expect. Yeah. Which is so much different from the MCU side of it. And I think that particular formula will work for the fans because that's what they've been clamoring for. Yeah. People expect the MCU to have, its banter, its light moments, bit of humor and all that, and then action. Yeah. So what would make you stand out from that? Yeah. You have to find your own way, DC.
Yeah. And what's great about that, Sir Jay, is that the biggest difference I'm also seeing is in these movies with Marvel, there is that tone that they have overall. And what I like about this is, even though we have the tone for DC, it's the characters themselves that are allowing that humor to settle in. Like Splash is funny because that's him as a character. Yeah. We don't need there's a sequence that isn't there anymore, which is Aquaman sitting on his on the lasso of truth, right? And I'm just an emotional guy. That scene wasn't in there. Or the Batman, or the Batman Superman thing where he holds him up and he's like, "Do you bleed?" And then at the end he's like, "Oh yeah, there's something definitely bleeding," right? That scene wasn't in there now. right? And that scene that wasn't in there, but that to me felt like the producer saying, let's adjust the tone rather than, is that something Batman would actually say in that
Exactly.
at that time?
You know, going back to the Snyder cut, he had comedic moments that weren't like forced. Like, you know, that moment where during the scuffle with Superman, and then Flash and Aquaman hit the staircase because Flash ran into Aquaman. That short moment, where Aquaman was just like,
yeah.
I'm so sorry. That was so good. Simple, but it's
that
like,
was good.
Right?
I love that moment.
And it's in character.
Yes.
It's in character. Yeah.
Because Aquaman would just be like,
yeah. You expect him to do that.
Okay, my bad.
Yeah. That's a perfect example.
Yeah, it's really, I think, just like what Sergey said, they have to stick with their guns and where they want to go without comparison to Marvel. It's just like how we would see dance pieces, eh?
Yeah, true.
Yeah, right?
True,
because like Marvel right now, I guess Marvel had the upper hand only because they started with Iron Man and they made their own formula to things. And until today, you can see like it's a testament to how innovative they want to be. Because if you watch WandaVision, the first 2 episodes, you're like, what the heck am I watching? And eventually it evolves and you're like, this is brilliant. Right? But it's unformulaic based on other movies they've done.
True.
Yeah.
So even though the DC universe came in a bit more they came in later on in their universe because they started with Man of Steel. I'm sure there were a lot of comparisons, but if they could have stuck to it with authenticity of the characters, of storytelling, they could have been just a different flavor. Because I honestly appreciate the setting that, and actually this is gonna tie in with what we were talking about earlier. Because like in the comics, right, it's like we have very grounded, relatable superheroes in the real world scenario. Because you have New York, you know, and other well, except for Wakanda and Sokovia. But they're so grounded, right? And in the MCU, they actually created a world that had grounded people, but it was a world that was also in acceptance of changing times and superheroes and whatnot. And then on contrast, we had DC, where in the DCEU, we had heroes that were thrown into the real world politics, real world issues. And that's actually, contrary to popular opinion, something I appreciated with Man of Steel, because I'm like, dang, this is called Man of Steel, but he's vulnerable. He's developing as a character. And then that was Zack Snyder's vision. But then when Warner Brothers, oh shucks, are they watching? And when Warner Brothers wanted to shift it up, change it up, because they were in competition with Marvel, they started coming out with like, you know, let's try this and more comedic effect. Let's do this, and suddenly the wheel started, you know, turning differently. So as
far as
Marvel
I
just
know,
do their thing.
Zack Snyder's vision was for a 4-year plan to develop the films individually first before they released Justice League. But the company that he worked for was seeing the MCU success, and they wanted to like profit off of that immediately. So let's just release Justice League. You know, let's just go big. It didn't work, unfortunately. So.
Yeah, they had like MCU had Civil War, so they were like, okay, let's move up they actually did this. Let's move up the timeline. Let's change the theatrical release of BVS. And Marvel would have, okay, this is the Avengers Age of Ultron. Okay, time to bring out Justice League. So
I like the direction that DC is going in now, and they do have I forget his name, but basically the guy that's in charge of DC now. He's not Kevin. I don't know if he's like
Jim Lee. Is it Jim Lee?
No. I forget his name, but he's the guy who's in charge of the Conjuring universe. So if you know the horror movies, the Conjuring 1, 2.
Oh yeah. I love that
Annabelle.
series. That is good.
That's him. So I read a couple articles where basically he came into the to DC and he was like, this is just a hot mess, right? Like the
Oh wait, so
know.
this guy is gonna be Kevin Feige's counterpart?
Yeah, I think he's the guy now. As far as I'm unless things have changed since I last read, but he's the guy now, and that's the reason why they got into these projects. Like, for example, when Joker, the film, came out, right? You know, he like they greenlit a lot of these movies where, because what's his name? I forget his name, but the guy who does it, he's used to doing low budget films, right? That will just work off of storyline, character development, and then just using that as success. So instead of like taking like a huge 100 million, you know, budget and then trying to get to like $1 billion, he's more okay with like 25 million, 50 million, and then get to 100 and you're still profitable. Like that's his approach. And so I think we saw that with Joker. We saw that with Shazam when that came out, right? It didn't have to be like super, super duper epic, but it just had a really good story. And this is actually where I'm excited because, man, like when people think about tone, right? Like you just take that cast of characters that's already there, and now we have Shazam, and you just throw him in there. I definitely think it's going to be an interesting, like the humor that people will be looking for and the lightheartedness is going to be there because of the characters that are involved. You know,
they have to add on a Green Lantern movie for sure. Yes. Oh, like when
to redeem ourselves.
Remember that scene in Justice League where they have this grand battle a la Lord of the Rings with you know the gods, you know, the humans and, and the Amazonians. Like that was epic. And when I saw a Green Lantern actually doing something, I was like, yes, they need a Green Lantern in this universe for sure.
And I think also, just for me personally, because I love Green Lantern, I just think like people's perspective of their perception of Green Lantern is like Aquaman 10 years ago, right? Which is like this lame character, especially after that movie that came out. And so I
Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, and whenever Ryan Reynolds bashes a Green Lantern on his like, you know, like through Deadpool and all these, like I'm just like, yeah, I understand. Like it could have been much better. But they don't understand like how dope and how crazy the actual Green Lantern storyline.
Oh yeah.
And how epic, like okay, for people watching, I won't spoil anything, but in the comics, okay, when you're watching, when you're reading comics, you have comics that come out throughout the year, right? And then you have like the summer like crossovers, which is basically like all these comics like suddenly come together and they tie in. So imagine like
you have a story arc.
Yeah. So like the stuff that you fans are seeing on Endgame and Civil War and all, these are based off of those crossover parts. And just so you know, like Green Lantern and their whole arc is a huge tie-in to a lot of the big stuff that happens in the DC universe. So I hope, like you said, Sergey, I really hope that they need to have more of the Green Lantern stuff. And I think that's in the works. I just hope that they're not so in a rush about it. But it just looking at the story here and how powerful Darkseid is and how all these parts will sort of come together, I think could be really exciting. So that's what I'm excited for.
I'm wondering though, like which like arc will they be following? Because you know, there's the Batman by what's his name? The Batman is coming out.
Yeah.
By
Matt Reeves.
Matt Reeves, right? That's coming out.
Rob Pattinson.
Yeah. So I just wonder like what's.
Oh yeah, I forgot all about that.
Yeah. So there's that, and I don't know where or how they'll
how does it fit?
Yeah, or if it's its own thing like the Joker, you know.
I think based off of the guy, again, I need to get his name, but their lead guy, he just wants to make really good separate films first, and I think that's okay with me because from what I see and what DC is really known for actually is their multiverse theory. Right.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, if they just wanted to like put these characters together, they could. So if like one day they said, "Oh, we have a multiverse. That's why Joker's in there, and that's why the young Batman's in there," or we have Flashpoint, so people watching Flashpoint is basically what kind of kicks that off.
Right.
How important Flash is, but
sure.
But yeah, so I think even if it doesn't make sense right now, I still am on board with people just watching good movies first,
Yeah.
right?
Don't worry. Down the line, it is gonna make sense.
Yeah.
Like, just wait around 10 years. It's all gonna come together.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you guys think though that they're going to continue the Snyderverse?
I think they're gonna continue. Like, this is what I think. I think it's too much of like sayang if they don't. Like, I think
they'd be foolish not to.
Right, and I think with the success. So my thing is just like, even if it's not Snyder, and maybe him personally, he wants to pursue other things, they should take what he's laid as a foundation and put that there.
Exactly.
I hope that he still continues it because I think he has a unique vision to it. But obviously, a lot of people just feel differently about sometimes. I can't help but sometimes feel like there's a bit of a already automatic bias to Snyder in terms of like how the film is going to come out just because it's him doing it, right? So I hope. Yeah. But yeah, and like, for example, and the reason I appreciate Snyder is like he's really like a fan. He's also like a comics fan. I think I read an interview where when people were giving him feedback, like, what do you guys think about people's reactions and how you develop a story and how it's just like this? And he said his response was just like really authentic. He's just I really don't know how to see it any other way, so I just kind of present it out as I would see it, as pages out of a comic book. Right, which I guess is you can sort of tell is that then that's the biggest difference is that not just because you know how to tell a story through a comic and panels,
right?
Film story is a bit different. So I like whether it's him or not, I'm okay with. But one thing I do want to point out is his attention to detail. Like, this is the one thing I wanted to get on. I don't know if you guys noticed it, but in the nightmare sequence where Batman is talking to Joker, right, and he's like, a missing girl or like a dead wife or a dead husband, and he says an adopted son. Do you guys know what he was referring to there?
What's his name?
Okay, so he's referring to Jason Todd.
Yeah, the one that he killed.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So for people watching, okay, spoiler, right? But basically, Joker's talking about one of the lowest points Batman has ever had, and if you want to know this in depth, you can watch the movie, animated movie. Batman Under the Red Hood.
Under the Red Hood, yeah.
Under the Red Hood. So in that movie,
a good one.
Yeah, it explains exactly like that sequence, and there were hints at that because I think I remember when there was like set pictures of Justice League coming out. They were like, which Joker is this, and like why is there a shrine of like Robin's armor in Batman's hall
in BVS, right?
BVS, right?
Yeah.
And like why is it there? And they refer to it in the nightmare sequence. So Jason Todd is the Robin that Batman did not save because Joker did something super personal to him and personal to Batman, which is he killed Jason Todd. He killed his Robin of that world, and still even after that, Batman did not
Joker.
resort to killing Joker. And so it just like for me, I was like, I remember watching that movie, and I was like, wow, this is how deep DC can get.
I'm trying to remember if that's the sheesh. Is that the Killing Joke kind of storyline, or am I wrong in that? I don't know.
Killing Joke is another storyline, yeah.
Anyway, I remember reading the Killing Joke, and I loved that graphic novel. I think it was by Frank Miller. It was so gritty. It was so awesome. I just forget the details now, but I remember loving that graphic novel.
Yeah, Frank Miller.
That was dark.
Yeah,
it was so dark.
That was dark.
It was
even
disturbing.
If it's a comic, like when Joker did what he did with Barbara, even as a comic.
Oh yeah. Man,
damn. Next page.
that is sick.
I haven't read it actually. I'm gonna check that out.
Frank, dude, you have to. If you're a Batman fan, you have to get on that.
I think I read the one where BVS is based on, which is like the Batman vs Superman. I don't know what that's called. What's it called?
Which one was that? It was based on when Batman was like a lot older.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that one. And he had a tank.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one.
Nice. Well,
definitely a lot of details, man, in Justice League that's supposed to set up for future movies and to also explain the Batflex, Ben Affleck's Batman's origin and his background and all that.
Right.
Man, okay, okay. Before you wrap up, because we have been talking about a lot of really good stuff. Just to kind of what thing I
no kidding.
Can we talk about? Can I just talk about so what I heard about for Flashpoint, and this is gonna be like, oh man, if this happens. But basically, okay, so Flashpoint. Another spoiler for people who don't know. Flashpoint is like Barry Allen, the Flash, basically messing with like all the timelines. Because he does something weird, and then now it opens up the multiverse, right? And so when you open up this like multiverse, okay, what I've heard is for the next movie, at least in that Flash movie that's supposed to be coming up, they might get cameos from all the different Batmans, specifically Michael Keaton. Michael Keaton Batman. If that happens, like as long as it's executed well. This is why I whenever I see just like the DC films not succeeding, right, and people aren't like appreciating, I'm just like, there's so much more where this story can go, and how like you know, right, and how it can expand. So I just hope that, again, like you guys, that this Snyder Cut does kind of go into like a more successful route, and it gets more momentum from producers to kind of move forward. But you know, with that said, you know, I just want to gather your final thoughts on the film and what you guys are excited for to kind of wrap it up. But
I wanted to bring up something because I remembered something.
Oh, go, Jess.
We're wrapping up now, so I'm like, damn it.
Okay, go, Jess. Talk about what you're talking about, and then we can go from there.
When you mentioned like the multiverse, right? Do you remember in the conversation between Joker and Batman, he actually also said something like, how many people do you have to kill or do you have to save?
Oh, yes.
How many timelines, right?
Yes.
When he said that, I was like, hold up. I'm like, that's when it also like kicked in will this tie into Flashpoint? Does he ask Flash to go to different timelines?
Yeah. Maybe it's just like Injustice. Maybe it's just like Injustice where this actually is not our Batman's future. It's the future of another Batman. And what that Flash is doing is he's going to their timeline, right? And like, because, so in Injustice,
possibly.
I'm gonna spoil it again. So spoiler alert for those who haven't seen or know the Injustice and storyline. Basically, how it ends is the world where we're watching a bad Superman is not really the world that we know. And even though we think that because this is the world that's introduced. And so what this Batman does is he's like, I cannot beat this Superman. So he goes to our prime one, I think, Earth, which is where Batman and Superman and Wonder Woman are all good and all are alive. Yeah. And they just go over and they kick like Superman's butt, right? And then Superman gets a glimpse, the bad Superman gets a glimpse of like what he could have been and what his old ideals were. So based off of that, if that's going to be the premise for what this future could be, that may be what they could be tying into, where it's that it's not actually going to be like the future, but these can actually be separate characters. Like you can see that future Batman talking with the current Batman. Right? Or like the future Flash talking with the current
That'll
Flash.
be so good.
Michael Keaton talking to George Clooney.
Oh, man.
You're neglecting Val Kilmer.
Val Kilmer.
How dare you?
Yeah, Val Kilmer was dope.
But if Christian Bale was there, that would be amazing if Christian Bale was there. Though.
Yeah, for sure.
I love that trilogy.
Yeah.
Okay, anyway, that's the only thing I was going to bring up when that dialogue, when he said, how many timelines do you have to go
through? But I'm glad you brought that up because at least for the people watching, it does set up some excitement for what can happen. So on that note, Jess, what are your overall thoughts and just things that you want to say for the people watching, I guess?
And overall thoughts, check out the Snyder Cut. It's good. It's good storytelling. Just be patient for Zack Snyder being Zack Snyder with his slow motions and the screams when Wonder Woman comes out. But I guess my final thought would be I do hope they follow through with at least finishing this story arc because you know we have like Martian Manhunter just coming out and we're like
right?
So we're like, where is he gonna go?
Right.
So Yeah, there's so much stuff that needs closure.
Sorry, wait. Okay, I know. So we're gonna close off, but you said Martian Manhunter, so I'll go into this. What did you think of them? I know, right? What did you think of them introducing Martian Manhunter in the middle of it as opposed to the end? Like, do you think that was a good move to do that, or would it have been better off to just put Martian Manhunter at the end, like, and then not have that sequence in the middle? Sergey, well, it looks like you were shaking your head. Like, what?
Yeah, for me, that scene was unnecessary in the middle of the movie. Okay. Could have done without it. Same with the choir group by the sea.
Yeah, right.
Aquaman. They could have put it towards the end. Yeah, and it wouldn't have made that much of a difference. It wasn't that essential. Yeah, I think that the addition of that. I like to see an expanded roster of the Justice League. Like I said, Green Lantern has to be there. Martian Manhunter has to be there. Oh, what about Hawkman?
Ooh,
right? Yeah. That's another interesting character that they have to make a movie of.
Yep.
You know? Yeah. So that's it.
Yeah. You know what would have been like better writing? Sorry, maybe not better writing, like an alternative. I don't want to say better writing because I'm the one. Alternative writing. Instead of having like the Martian Manhunter come out in the middle randomly through Martha Kent, like it could, because see Martian Manhunter, he was the general all along, right?
Yeah.
He could have just come at the end as the general that he has to speak with Bruce, and he could be like, in light of these recent events, I have to tell you something. And then he comes out and reveals himself as the Martian Manhunter, you know? And that would be like more fluid, and people would be like, wait a minute, right?
Yeah.
And he could also, I don't know.
I agree. No, I agree.
Oh, that would have been better. Would have been a surprise.
That's
right. Yeah.
And it opens up more questions, and at least you're not watching and at least it happens at the end, and you're not in the middle of the movie. Kind of like, wait, who the heck was that, right? Because, so for me personally, as a fan, that moment when he turned into, I was like, oh, and I was like, oh, okay, because I know. But for the people that are watching it that don't know, they're just be like okay,
who is that?
How do I now move forward? Are we gonna see that guy again, or is he gonna be involved in So for me, when I kept watching the movie, I kept thinking to myself, okay, so is Martian Manhunter gonna be in the final battle now?
I know, right?
Are they gonna be 7 instead of 6?
Yes.
You know, so I agree with that. It got me excited, but at the same time, I do think it could have been executed a better way.
Okay, so apparently, this is a really quick intel. Apparently, Martian Manhunter's role was supposed to be bigger because in one of the original posters of Justice League, when it was still Zack Snyder, it says "Unite the 7."
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember. That's what I was referring to in my head. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. But I guess during the post during post editing and everything, I guess they shortened his role just to give way for the others, I guess.
Right. Which is okay. You know, I think, it could have, too much would have been of a good thing, could have been bad. So but anyway, so I feel like at every point there's always gonna be something where we can keep
back to the wrap up.
But Sergey, your overall thoughts, sorry.
Okay. So for those who haven't watched it, please make it a point to actually get on it because you won't regret it. I didn't have high expectations for it. Honestly, I just wanted the Snyder Cut people to just stop and let's just get it over and done with and let's move on with life. But now I see that, the fans are passionate about it, and this is the big payoff. This is what they've been waiting for. So if you are a fan of DC and everything DC, this is a love letter to you, and you're gonna love this.
Yes.
For those who are on the fence about, is it worth it? Yeah, I think it is. It is a good watch. You'll be entertained, and if you will just stop comparing it to the MCU, you will better appreciate this.
Nice. That's probably the best way to close that off is just stop comparing it to MCU. Just appreciate it. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's a nice way to close it off. Thank you, Sir Jay. Thanks, Jess, for sharing. I think for me personally, same sentiments, to just enjoy it for what it is, and then
for what it is, yeah.
And to maybe, if you want, for more context, there's a lot of the animated movies, like Jess said, are very, very well done. To give you a little bit of background on these characters. So regardless of whether you go that route or just watch the film for what it is, I think, it's enjoyable for sure. But yeah, thank you guys, Sir Jay and Jess for joining me and discussing this.
You bet.
I hopefully, so I've been talking to Jess, we talk about dance stuff, but, it would be interesting if we come together a couple times and maybe talk more. Could be maybe a WandaVision season wrap up. Or like just
Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
We got a lot of good stuff to talk about, and I think at least in those conversations, you guys can lead the boat a little bit, because as far as Marvel is, like I'm probably more on the surface level of like, because outside of like the movies, the last time I was really picking up and getting into Marvel was like X-Men the animated series. So I think it'd be great to have that conversation. Do you think, I'm sure you guys would be down for that, right? And the
for sure
fans, right? So awesome.
Definitely.
Yes. Again, Sir Jay, Jess, thank you guys so much. And for the people that are watching, really appreciate you guys taking the time to watch. We talked for like, well over. This is already half of Zack Snyder's Justice League. So if you watch this, you can definitely make it through 4 hours. So thank you guys for watching. This is on YouTube, so if you like it, comment, subscribe, and follow these guys as well. I'll put their details in the description. And thank you guys for checking out this special episode of Let's Talk Zack Snyder's Justice League. Appreciate you guys watching, and thank you, and see you next time. Bye and peace. Bye, guys.